flashy. Wonder where he went. John, come.
Morning, David.
Morning, Bill. Darn. Can you hear me?
Yes, I
Okay.
can.
Do you see
Can you
me?
hear me? Can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you and see you.
um, I don't know why, but this isn't giving me gallery view this morning. And
Uh,
uh, you might be the only one today, Bill.
really?
I'm I'm not sure about that, but
So Bill Bynum last week and me this week.
yeah. There we go. I am constantly learning something else about Zoom.
I know almost next to nothing about it. I set it up once years ago and I just get on and cross my fingers. No, I don't send out any Zoom invitations. I don't think I ever have.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah.
Well, obviously I do.
Yes.
I've learned a little bit about it, but it has enormous capabilities,
Yes.
um, and most of which I suppose I don't really need anyway. But every once in a
Mm.
while, something happens and I have no idea how to correct it. So I
Well,
sort of wander around until I figure it out.
my wife uses it in her work. And
Uh-huh.
occasionally he has a glitch of some sort or another, and she trusts me around computers, uh, which is okay up to a point, but Zoom always, you know,
Yeah.
seems way too complex for me.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I suppose it's like anything else. If you used it a lot,
yeah,
it would be easy. But I try to avoid doing anything that will complicate matters.
yeah.
So where are we here? Go to. Well, we might wait a minute and see. I have a feeling Adam can't make it, um, and I'm not sure Joanne's back. So
Yeah.
um, we'll.
And Bill can't make it either this week.
No, he has a doctor's appointment
Yeah,
today.
darn things.
Yeah, Jeff had one yesterday. Uh, by the way, we will not have a class on July 4th.
Oh,
I
yeah, I
I
pretty much assumed that. Yeah, so
I have tried to do that some years, but often people have things going on, so
yeah, yeah,
um,
fair enough.
doesn't make too much sense to do
All
it.
right.
So, did you get your power back? Everything all right?
Yes. I'm not sure how long exactly it was out. Early on, around 1 o'clock when it first went out, they were in communication. Eversource was,
Yeah.
but they didn't send out a notification when it came back. So I think sometime between 4 and 5.
Uh,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, we had quite the thunder and lightning over this way. I assume you had it too.
Yeah, there was a lot, although I managed to sleep through most of it.
Good.
But then I had power.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think I had my fan running, so
Yes, it was very uh, close as
yeah. I I prefer not to sleep with air conditioning, so
yeah, it has to get pretty bad before we turn ours on. So
but
we in the whole house, if it's a warm day, we don't seem to mind during the day, but we both would prefer not to have it at night. So
yeah. Well, Bill, I think you're it.
okay.
Well, that's good. Well, I'm ringing the ting shaw. Think of all your questions. So,
Well, number 53 is no. um, I don't have so many questions. It's an acknowledgement that need to practice more and more often. When I do, well, for instance, uh, I did watch the video from last week, which I found very helpful, actually. Um, I seem to get something extra from watching somebody else, um, and relating it to me. Um, I will say that what stood out in my practice yesterday was in 6, the connection was as strong as it ever has been.
Uh-huh.
I had all sorts of tingling and stuff going on,
Uh-huh.
um, which pleased me and somewhat surprised me because it's been hit or miss in general.
Mhm.
And I've been basically trying to focus on the elbows and moving the scapula as opposed to reaching,
Mhm.
um, especially in 3. Um, but in general, so but no particular question about I don't understand this or this always goes wrong or something. I suppose, if you watch me, you would, point out something that I'm not aware of. So,
Well, yeah, we might a little later. I'll have you do some flowing, and I
okay,
will observe.
okay. Oh, and the holding the breath, the in breath from 3 to 9 seems to work well with me.
Uh-huh. Good.
So that seems to be a convenient uh, space for breathing in.
Yeah, I that is the preferred method,
Hmm.
although obviously not the only one. Um, but I prefer that too. It works well.
Yeah, it seems also to help the flow rather than in, out,
Yep, I agree. Good. Well, um, maybe we'll look at a couple of things.
Okay.
So first, let me just ask a question first. Um, do you feel like you are able to really twist rather than simply rotate?
Uh, yes. Um, Remembering to do it is the harder part of that. um, when I'm focused on it, I think I can, yes. Um, there's no way really for me to know whether or how far I'm getting with that. Um,
Yeah,
but I'm beyond that, certainly, turning.
good.
Um, and spiraling is of course yet another step, and I'm not sure whether I've ever gotten even to the beginning stage of that. I don't know, how it morphs from twisting into spiraling, or if that's an appropriate way of thinking about it even. I suspect it's not.
Yeah, I don't think I'd say that.
No, no.
Uh, we will, um, well, it's quite a ways down the road yet, but we will actually do some sort of very basic spiraling practice
Hmm.
that, that you can use in Gods. Um, spiraling energy bodies is a whole separate Qigong that is focused purely on spiraling
Yeah,
while doing the same movements that you are in opening the energy gates,
yeah.
which we haven't done. Um, so, but there, but we do introduce some spiraling um, in this a little later on.
Yeah. Is there a way for me to understand how far along I'm getting with the twisting as opposed to the turning?
You know, if in person, uh,
You
yes,
could
I could
feel it.
feel
Yeah, yeah,
what you were doing.
yeah.
Um, I think, the probably the basic thing is to be able to feel that you're not trying to rotate,
Yes. Yeah.
that you were allowing the twisting to occur. Um, I, there's not a probably a really good way. Um, you can feel the difference sometimes. I don't know how this would work for you, but you can simply hold on to your arm and rotate it and feel what that feels like,
Yeah.
and then twist and see what that feels like.
Yeah.
Um, and it's different.
Yes, it is.
Um, and if you have somebody who else who can really hold on to your arm,
Mm.
um, one of the tests is that if somebody really grabs you hard, really
Mm.
hard, if you simply rotate the muscles, they don't move very much. But if you twist, they'll move.
Okay. Yeah.
um, so there are ways um, to work to check that, but
Okay.
a little hard to do it on Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah. One day,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
one day the bridge will get out of the way. And, so, while you know what spiraling is, you're doing twisting, and the difficult thing is that people tend to twist above or below the elbow and not both. And clearly, from what you said before, you're working on making sure that you're twisting everything,
Yes.
um, ideally going all the way to the spine. Um, so the trick of it is that the line between a rotation and a twisting, in one sense, is fairly thin. But when it's twisting, the biggest thing about it eventually is that the twisting will go to the bone, while a rotation will actually stay near the surface of the muscle. Now the question is, if you twist too hard, are you going to start pulling things out? Your muscles have insertion points in your body, and you don't want to twist them too hard. What you want to do is to have the insertion points in your body get used to having heavier and heavier torque, comfortably and smoothly. And that twisting is not just about strength. It's also about the way that the twisting, if it goes deep, will go right into your internal organs. It's a direct line. So what I'd like you to do is just do a few repetitions of movement 2 and focus on that twisting of the whole arm, and not worrying too much about the fingers and the hand, because of course that's the easy part. You make sure that the forearm, the upper arm, the shoulder, and the scapula are all twisting. Good, okay, relax. That looked pretty good. It was interesting to see the movement grow. I'm very familiar with that. It often takes a few repetitions before it all comes together.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but that certainly happened for you there.
yeah.
Did, could you, did you feel that you were twisting all the way?
Yes, actually more so on the twisting in than the twisting out, but um, the place where it was least noticeable was coming up the center line.
Hmm. You know, one of the things about that part of movement 2 is to be aware that as you are coming up the center, that is beginning to go out. Not only are you twisting out, but you're bending out away from your body.
Hmm.
Um, and that's very different, of course, from 5, where we're we're twisting in, and it's close to the body as you come up. So that is, and it's a little subtle because you're not pushing the arms way forward, but they are beginning to go out as you go up. That's part of why the position of movement two's arms when they go out is more forward than the others. So,
Yes, I was also trying to bear that in mind, what you had said before also, but in last week's video about 2 being out here and 6, by contrast, being much more directly out to the side.
yeah. Yep. So the point in God's Played in the Clouds is that you want to get it to go deep enough that you ratchet the fibers down, preferably down all the way to the bone, because the degree that you do it in the arms is going to actually directly cause a sympathetic resonance happening in your internal organs. You can use it to load and release the ligaments, but that is done really at a later level of practice in this. We're not going to do that right now. And we're not talking about the tendons here either. They are at another level of God's, which is not in this particular course. There are 2 fundamental strategies in both God's and martial arts. You start with the ligaments, you get the ligaments together, and then you do the tendons. If you start with the tendons, you tend to ignore the ligaments. And the ligaments are more useful in relation to health, and the tendons are more useful in relation to strength. So keep in mind that in movements 5 and 6, the primary concerns are the left, right, and central channels. But are you doing everything else that you've done in the first 4 movements of God's? That's kind of a trick question. Yes, of course you are. Understand, although the left, right, and channels are ultimately what really tell the other 4,000 what to do, the 4,000 are telling the left and right channels how they can respond. It's not like it's only in one direction. They are 2 completely linked. They are interdependent. You can't really separate them. Now, one more thing about movements 5 and 6. They are fundamentally 2 different ways that you can keep playing with them until you find out how to balance your insides. When you move chi inside your body, there are 2 ways of looking at it. There are 2 overwhelming giant experiences that show up. One is that you have the experience of your chi being very heavy and very dense. And then you have the feeling of it being completely light and totally amorphous. It's condensed or light and amorphous. Now, generally speaking, the condensed way of feeling it is going to bring you deeper inside yourself. You could experience it like a chest of gold, getting heavier and deeper, taking you inside yourself. And by that kind of drilling and coming down, that can cause you to penetrate inside yourself and recognize how your chi is moving. When the holes are where the holes are, or in the case of the chest of gold, where some of it has been taken out. Now I'm saying this because when you do movement 6, one way that it can be done is that through making the chi in your central channel heavier, it can enable you to feel it better. And then you could just keep this heavier sense of feeling up your left and right channels, because it might make it easier for you to feel inside and be easier to work with. You can look at this in a simple way. If someone touches you with 1/100th of a gram of strength, you might not feel very much. But if they touch you with 30 grams of strength, you're absolutely going to know what's touching you. Now, that's from the heavy side, and that's its advantage. But what is its disadvantage? It can make you start going so deeply inside yourself that you don't notice anything else that's happening, and that's a negative. Because the object is to be aware of as much as you can at any moment. You are one person, and you could very easily end up focusing on one tiny little part of yourself. What about the rest? Where did it go? You don't want to do that. Then you have the second thing, that when you make the chi get very light, it has a tendency to take what is overly condensed in you and break it up, which in that case closes your channels. It's like when someone is being too heavy. Sometimes when you get heavy, you see things more clearly than when you get light. But a lot of times, the big result of being too heavy is your awareness narrows down into a tiny little thing, and everything else goes away. But as you get lighter, all of a sudden, you do realize more. Now, when you work on making it light, the biggest thing that can happen is that when something is blocked or bound up inside you, the lightness does what the fire tradition calls sankai. Your chi disperses. It disperses until it's gone. In a Chinese metaphor, let's say you had a demon inside of you. Emotional demon, mental demon, or psychic demon. If you get heavy, what now becomes your relationship with the demon? You get very little. You get every little thing that's in that demon. You recognize its claws, its teeth, its whatever. And that's good in one sense, because if you don't know what something is, it's kind of hard to do something about it. But when you get light, you know what that does to the demon? It releases it until finally it disperses. So much so that it's gone. It loses its strength to remain coherent inside of you. And the fact of the matter is that in God's, you're always moving between these two things. When you get the sense of this heaviness, you recognize the demon. You're able to start just recognizing what the central channel is. There is a clear sense of a ball in the movement. It's a tool that can enable you to recognize what's there. Then again, when it goes the other way and you get light, At the end of the movement, there is no ball. And this is a way of clearing the central channel. There are so many techniques in Taoist meditation which work with this principle, and since God's is the bridge between meditation and doing Qigong, this is important. And it works equally well if what you're feeling is the qi inside your body that's making your body unhappy. If your qi has the sense of being turbid, murky, and dirty, stagnant qi always feels turbid. Turbid qi feels gray inside of you. If you get it light, it becomes clear. So now I want you to do this very simple thing. I want you to play around with this idea, because these are two feelings you don't have to make happen. They're going to happen all the time anyway. They're going to show up sometimes, and they're not going to show up other times. But I want you to recognize what they are. Whether you're getting this kind of heavy qi feeling, or you're getting the very, very light qi feeling. Because the light one is breaking up what's blocked, and the heavier one is getting you to recognize what's blocked. And there is a big difference. As a matter of fact, sometimes just the sheer sense of the heavy can give you much more of a feeling that you're doing something, really feeling something flooding inside you. The light one doesn't give you a feeling you're doing something, but it does a lot anyway. So what I'd like you to do, let's see what time we are here. I want you to do about 6 repetitions of all the postures, all the movements, and just see what you feel. Do you feel heavy or light? Especially in movements 5 or 6. And when you get done, when you complete, I want you just to stop with your hands at your dantian, and I'm going to guide you through one of the more complete closures to God's.
Okay. Just a question before I begin.
Sure. Absolutely.
How the role of intention in moving between the heavy and the light, or isn't it a matter of intention? I know you said it's going to happen one way or another anyway, but
so
can it be directed?
There are 2 things. You can use your intent
Yep.
to cause either of them, which would be a response to what you felt. For instance, if you felt that you were really blocked one day, you might go into the flow with the intent for the qi to be very light so that it can break up that block.
Okay.
And sometimes you start into a flow and you think, I don't know where I am or what I feel at all. And so then you try to make it heavy. But for this practice, you really want to just see what you feel.
Okay.
Do you feel heavy in some and light in others? Does it change partway through? What happens?
Okay.
So I might suggest you close your eyes. As I said, there are a number of different closures, but we start with a fairly simple one. So begin to focus on pulling the chi from your feet, your fingertips, and the crown of your head and your spine into your dantian. When you feel it's all in your lower dantian, relax that chi in your lower dantian. And let that chi flow from your lower dantian and extend back out to your fingertips, your toes, and the crown of your head. And then bring it back to your lower dantian from those 5 extremities. When you get everything into your lower dantian, just completely relax and let all the chi of your body integrate into your lower dantian. If your mind is agitated at this point, you might need to do the closing again. You might even need to do it 2 or 3 times until your mind becomes very quiet. Let your hands separate, and as they come to your sides, let your fingertips face the floor. And just let whatever chi that is in your dantian that wants to move, circulate around your body. Just let it circulate until your mind feels calm again and your body has no physical agitation. And open your eyes very slowly. And that would be the end of your practice for that time. So how was that, Bill?
Well, my dantian is certainly warm right now.
Well, that's good.
Um, it was good. I would say on balance, probably more to the light side than the heavy side.
Uh-huh.
Um, I was trying not to measure it as I went. I was trying to actually work on twisting and uh, keeping my elbows under control, et cetera, et cetera. Some of the thousand things to remember.
Right. So,
And I also would say, just this popped out while we were doing the closing. I felt my spine involved
oh, good.
now, and that usually doesn't happen with me, but it did today. So
Good. That is good. Well, all in all, I would have said that that was a pretty good flow. Short, I understand,
yeah, yeah.
but in terms of what you were doing, um, I think the one thing I noticed was that you might put a little bit of focus on making sure your bending and extending is consistent. Not from movement to movement of the same,
Yeah, yep,
but rather that you are bending all the way through where you want to bend and extending all the way through where you want to extend.
yeah. I'm trying to think where I noticed it, but probably five. I was aware that it was inconsistent.
1, 3, and 5, interestingly
Okay,
enough, the odd numbers. Um, one starts us off with really quite a difficult one in that sense, because we tend to be extended at the bottom when we start the extension, and then we have no place to go. So trying to really be aware that when you're bending, actually when you've, let's see if I don't know what's the best way to see this, but when you have gotten to this point, and then this is a constant bend all the way down, and then that the extension doesn't start until this point, and then you have somewhere to go out from as you come up. So that just gives you a little more, rather than getting down here and then the arms going straight and having to come up almost straight into that. So it's kind of a tough one. 3, I think the thing I was thinking about there was primarily the spine. And that, of course, is a difficult part of that movement, but the fact that we want the spine to have been bent also by the time we get to here, so that the spine can straighten as we make that movement. And then you obviously recognized what was happening at 5, so. But that's somewhat minor points. I just noticed in passing.
Oh, thank you.
Really, I thought you did very well with it, all in all. So play with heavy and light this week.
Okay.
And today is the beginning of a new session.
Yes, you should have something in the mail today. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Good. And I'll see you next week for
Yeah,
this class, but not
yes,
Tuesday.
right. Not Tuesdays. Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Well, have a good week, David.
Thank you. Any other last minute?
No, it's not even quite a question, but the twisting in the legs.
Aha.
More difficult, obviously, to manage than in the arms.
Except the good part about the legs is that they can only be done one way.
Yeah.
There is no different edges to worry about.
Yeah.
They can only twist in towards the center and twist out.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they're anchored. Yeah.
Yep,
So.
they're anchored. Unless you're standing on your head, which I don't recommend for doing gods. So when you feel that you are getting twisting pretty consistent in the arms, indeed you should begin thinking about twisting in the legs.
Yeah.
And in this, the legs twist the same as the arms do.
Okay.
So you don't have to think about one doing one thing and one doing another,
Yeah.
which of course we have going on in the Tai Chi forms all the time, just to make things interesting.
Yeah.
But here, fortunately, you don't have to worry about that. And I think the thing that I would say with the legs, and probably you already know this, I think, but um, you, I think it's really important to be aware that you're not trying to rotate the knees in particular.
Yeah.
You really, with the legs, it's really important to when they're anchored as they are in this, to get the twisting to function, because the twisting can function without causing any kind of torque on the joints, as long as you don't do it too hard. But it, and eventually you'll get the legs to do it as unconsciously but consistently as the arms. It does eventually happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, David.
Have a good
Have a
week.
good week. And everybody who's watching. Have a good
Yes, and all the watchers. Bill did remind me to be sure that I was recording today, so I did remember.
Okay, great.
Take care.
Yeah, me too.
Bye.
Bye.